Hey guys, it's me Jennifer, and today I'm going to go over a wish list that every car person has. It's that mental garage where money doesn't exist, your driveway and garage space is infinite, and you can just collect. So here's my list of 10 cars that I would buy if money were no object. Some may be obvious, while others you might not expect from me. So let's get into it. Number one on the list probably isn't much of a surprise for those of you who know me, and it's the 1971 Plymouth Cuda. Now this is the Cuda that everybody pictures when you say the name. The shaker hood, the fender gills, that unmistakable front end. 1971 is probably the most sought after model year for the Barracuda, since Plymouth only ran it with that grille for only one model year before changing the grille and taillights for 1972. Ever since I was a little girl, I've always wanted one of these cars. I just thought they were one of the coolest, most badass muscle cars to ever exist. You could get it with a 340, a 383, both with 4-barrel carburetors, all the way up to the 426 Hemi or a 446 pack. Personally, probably like every other Mopar enthusiast, I dream about having one of those 425 horsepower Hemi versions as a coupe in plum crazy metallic purple with white vinyl seats and a 4-speed manual transmission with the Hurst shifter. That is just the holy grail for me. Number two on my list is the Dodge Lil Red Express truck. This is a truck that shouldn't have existed the way it did. Trucks in this era were exempt from certain emissions rules that were strangling horsepower out of regular passenger cars. So, Dodge built a truck with a 360 cubic inch V8 engine, sporting a 4-barrel carburetor under the hood, and tuned it to make real power. And it almost worked too well. The Lil Red Express truck was one of the quickest American vehicles of its day. Car and Driver magazine even tested it for 0 to 100 mile-an-hour acceleration, and it hit 119.9 seconds and had a 118.8 mile-an-hour top speed. My desire to have a Lil Red Express truck goes back to a childhood dream, which I mentioned in my review of Olivia, my 1979 D150 Utiline. It's just such a badass truck, and it looks cool as hell with those chrome exhaust stacks, red paint, wood bed sides and cargo bed floor, and gold decals. Only about 7,300 were produced during the 1978 and 1979 model years. So there's a little bit of that rarity factor going on for it as well. I think if I were to get one, it'd be a 1978, simply because I like the round headlights more than the dual square headlights that the 1979 model had. Number three on the list is not American at all. The Volvo P1800. Yes, I know I'm a Mopar girl, but there's just something about this Volvo that I like. Volvo designed the P1800 for those who wanted something that looked like a Ferrari, but was more affordable and reliable like a Volvo. The P1800 isn't boxy like what you would expect from a classic Volvo either, though I wouldn't mind having a 240 wagon also. Instead, it's this beautiful Swedish sports coupe that was designed in Italy and produced from 1961 through 1973, with a nice long hood and fastback rear glass. There was even a wagon version of it too, which I kind of want also. The P1800 was powered by a 100 horsepower 1.8 liter 4-cylinder engine, and output was bumped up to 130 horsepower by 1970 before being detuned to 125 horsepower for 1972. And in the 1960s TV show The Saint, Roger Moore drove one, making the car a little bit of a cult classic. Number four is the Dodge Viper. Specifically, either the first or second generation models. The first gen RT10 Viper came out for the 1992 model year as a result of Chrysler saying, "What if we built a modern Cobra?" And with Carroll Shelby involved in the car's development, The end result was a raw sports car with a monstrous 400 horsepower, 8-liter V10 engine, a manual transmission, no ABS, no traction control, no airbags, not even exterior door handles or roll-up windows. Instead, you got a vinyl window that you could unzip to get inside. Then in 1996, the second generation debuted with slightly different styling, and the exhaust pipes had moved from the sides to the back. And a little while later came the GTS Coupe that brought a double bubble roofline and a reworked V10 that had more power. This generation of the Viper was still raw, no doubt, but it was a little bit more refined than the first gen model. And it came with airbags and air conditioning. And that's why I adore the Viper. It's just this raw sports car with minimal creature comforts, with horrible outward visibility, and this super long hood that makes you guess your parking. And I think that classic styling before the third gen model came out is just peak Viper. Number 5 may be a little bit of a surprise considering what I normally like, and it's the Citroën SM. Citroën partnered with Maserati to create the SM Grand Touring Coupe, which was sold here in the US from 1971 through 1973. Maserati supplied a 180 horsepower V6 engine for the car, while Citroën brought its signature self-leveling, self-adjusting hydro-pneumatic suspension system. And though they never made it to the US version, the SM's headlights also turned with the steering, which in the early 70s was some very fancy tech. I'd love to have an SM simply because I think it's just one of the coolest, most stylish cars ever to be imported here. Only 2,000 of them or so made it to the US, and not many are still around today. The SM has this sleek, tapered, very French body, and the suspension system is pretty cool to watch in action. And in its luxurious interior, the SM also had some interesting features, like a large round button for the brake pedal instead of a normal rectangular pedal, and a single spoke steering wheel. So odd, so French. All right. Back to the Mopars. Number 6 is the 1970 Dodge Coronet Super B, which was Dodge's response to the Plymouth Roadrunner. One of the baddest muscle cars ever, the 1970 Super B just has such iconic styling that looked much different than that of the 1969 or 1971 models, with the twin grills and headlights inside these large chrome surrounds, which in advertisements were referred to as B-wings. It also had dual hood scoops and that classic bumblebee stripe wrapping around the back end. You could get it with a 383 either with a 2 or 4 barrel carb, a 446 pack, or of course, a 426 Hemi. The 70 Super B didn't look like any other muscle car at the time, and that unique styling is what really draws me to it. And like with the 71 Cuda, give me one with the Hemi and a 4-speed manual transmission with the Hurst pistol grip shifter. Number 7 on the list is the 1971 Plymouth GTX. So 1971 was the last model year the GTX existed as its own model before it got folded into being basically an option package for the Roadrunner, since sales for it weren't the best. The GTX came standard with a 440 V8, though the 426 Hemi was optional. And it also came with a heavy-duty suspension and brake setup and a sportier, more upscale interior than the Roadrunners. You could get it either with a 4-speed manual transmission, which is what I would get, or a 727 3-speed TorqueFlite automatic. This B-body Mopar is another one of those cars that I think just has the classic muscle car look. It has this aerodynamic fighter jet styling with bulging fenders, a raked windshield, a blacked out grille, and the performance hood. I'd get one with the stripes that flow down from the hood and onto the fenders, as well as the front and rear spoilers. Number 8 goes back to the list of European cars that I'd like to have someday, the Lotus Europa. Made from 1966 through 1975, the mid-engine Europa Coupe almost looks like it should have a small truck cargo bed, but it doesn't. With a steel backbone chassis, seats that weren't adjustable, and a fiberglass body, the Europa had a low center of gravity and an optimal weight distribution. And it weighed only about 1,350 pounds when it first came out. The Series 1 model had a 78 horsepower four-cylinder engine and a 4-speed manual transmission, and output was bumped up to 82 horsepower for the Series 2. The later twin-cam version had a 105 horsepower four-cylinder and weighed a little bit less than 1,600 pounds. There's one Europa that shows up at the local Cars and Coffee here, and every time I have to stop and look and take pictures of it. I absolutely adore its shape. It's so unique. And with its small size and low slung body, admittedly, this probably is the one little death trap car I'd get. I'd probably be a little bit too scared to drive it next to a semi-truck on the interstate. Number 9 is the 1971 AMC Javelin, another one of those cars that I think has a very iconic muscle car look. The American Motors Corporation gave the Javelin a major redesign for the 1971 model year, with a more aggressive stance, bulged front fenders, and flared rear quarters. And the top-of-the-line performance-focused AMX version got a different mesh grille and a unique hood. And while AMC didn't have the budget that the Big Three had, it went racing with the Javelin anyway in the Trans Am series, and it took home the championship for 1971, 72, and 76. The Javelin has always just been a car that I've admired since I was a kid, and I think the second generation model looks a hell of a lot better than the first generation one, and that in-between one model year only redesign that AMC did for the 1970 model. And last on the list is the Lamborghini Espada. The Espada took some of its design cues from the Marzal and Piranha concept cars that debuted at the Geneva and London Motor Shows in 1967. Ferruccio Lamborghini wanted a car that could haul people and cargo, so the next year, the Espada debuted as a 2+2 Grand Tourer with a low, wide, kind of angular shape and 10 cubic feet of cargo space underneath the rear hatch. Under its hood was a 325 horsepower 4-liter V12 engine with 6 Weber twin carburetors. It used about 3.8 gallons of oil and about 3.7 gallons of coolant. This would definitely be my ideal car if I were just a total masochist who wanted to blow my budget on just regular maintenance alone. Now, Jennifer, why not the Countach that was the bedroom poster dream car? Well, I'd take one of those too, so maybe I should make another one of these lists. But I think with how I tend to gravitate towards cars from the 1960s and 70s, the Espada just hits that sweet spot for me. The Espada is a very Marcello Gandini design. The same guy who designed cars like the Alfa Romeo Montreal, the Miura, and even the Countach. And that's it. Let me know in the comments which cars would be in your dream garage if you had unlimited funds. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And if you want to help fuel future content, head on over to thegearheadgirl.com and you can get access to exclusive content and merchandise. So, I'll see you guys later. Bye!